Hi everybody, this is Jeff here again. Today I want to show you how to handle certain situations with sheets of mosaic tile that tend to flex a lot, or that you have loose tiles on. So here, this is the pattern of what this particular polished limestone mosaic is supposed to look like. This is a French petite pattern here. And here you can see a sheet of it where, man, these are just loose. They're coming off of the mesh, and this is really bad. Well, what do? You're not going to be able to hang that up on the wall. How are you going to do that for your backsplash? So, and then another case you might run into is if you take this out to your wet saw and start, making a cut, to make it fit somewhere. Sometimes when these get wet, your tiles want to start falling off too, and it just gets really flimsy, and it's just almost impossible to manage. So there's a couple of different things you can do to combat that. This one here, you can see I put some blue tape on it, and that will hold it fairly stiff until you can get it up under the wall. But the problem is with the blue tape, you can still get these little creases here. So let me show you what happens over here. Sometimes when you put it on the wall, it'll sag a little bit, and see how it pinches right there. So we always end up putting spacers all over the place to maintain this even grout line here. So even with the best LHT mortar that we sometimes use, the large heavy tile mortar, they'll still sag a little bit, even though you do everything right, and it just seems to be a lot of work. And so what we do here, the best way I think that we can combat this is using this here. This is what we call Schluter Kerdi waterproofing membrane. We normally use this in the showers and the bathtub surrounds. You cement this over your backer boards, and then you tile directly onto this waterproofing fleece here. So you can see what I've got here is we cut it here to just barely fit inside the outline of the sheet of tiles here, right? So your strategy is you lay this out on a piece of cardboard. We'll trowel out some thin set mortar directly onto this. Then we'll back butter the back of this mosaic sheet here. Then you take that sheet and you set it directly on top of here. Mush it down, make sure it's nice and flat and perfect. Then you can peel the tape off gently, and then make sure that all your grout lines look perfect, and then just walk away. Let it dry overnight. Come back in the morning, and you'll be able to lift this entire sheet up as though it's a single tile. And that's the best way to get that done for you. So you do a bunch of these to go across the bottom of your backsplash, and you'll be able to just glue them, cement them right onto the wall, interlocking into each other, and just make sure that they're nice and flat on the front surface. So let's go ahead and do that right now with this. Okay, so if we come back to this original one here, you remember this was the sheet that was all in disarray, right? So I moved these all back into position. They look perfect now. They're actually sitting there loose. So we're going to take some blue tape and tape all the seams together to try to get it into one sort of a homogeneous piece here, so that they'll all stay together. Okay, so here we are a minute later, and we've got it all taped up and ready to go. So we're just going to get the cement ready, and we'll start. So here's another example here. These are some polished limestone subway pattern tiles here on a mosaic. And you can see some of these, they're just loose. I guess these must have been sitting around in a warehouse somewhere and dried up, or who knows what happened. But see how they're all just popping off left and right here? So you wouldn't even be able to really lift this thing up to stick it onto the wall to get this into the cement. So what we'll have to do here with this one here is you want to get all of these put back in place into their perfect alignment here. Then you want to take some blue tape and just tape it across the front of the tiles here like this, till you get them all held together. And then you can lift up the sheet and cement it down onto the Kerdi sheets, and then let it dry overnight, and then you'll have one big stiff flat sheet of tiles instead of this floppy. See how this kind of flops around here, and they're just falling off left and right. So that's how you deal with a problematic sheet of tiles like these. Okay, before we start though, I just want to show you this particular mosaic tile, because this is one tile that does it right. Notice how this just lays perfectly even for you? That's because you can see the plastic film that's on here. See how you got this film that's all over the front? And that's what keeps them all perfectly evenly spaced, and they're a lot less likely to sag on you and to pinch. So even if I try, I can't. I have to really push these to make it pinch. Okay, so when I hang these on the wall, these are probably going to do a very good job for us. And then when it's done, you peel off the film. After it's dried the next day, you peel this film off of the front of it. And I like the fact that they made it clear so that you can see the tiles as you're placing them to make sure nothing goes bad. The other ones that have paper on the front that you have to wet the paper the next day, I mean, that's just a lot of extra work. This is the way to do it right here. Alright, so we've completed mixing the thin-set mortar. We used a large heavy tile thin-set mortar. And now I've got it troweled out here onto the Kerdi membrane. So now all we have to do is just lay out the first sheet down on top of this. Alright, so now we're going to lift, actually we'll do this one here. I'm going to lift this sheet here, and we're going to bring it over here. We're going to flip it over first and peel off the backing paper. See if this comes off. You always want to make sure you take off all the backing paper if there's any on there, so that you're just looking at the mesh. It should be tile and mesh. So now I'm going to take the whole setup and lower it right down on top of the membrane. Just going to get it a little flat there, mush it down a bit, and make sure that we don't see the membrane poking out anywhere around the edges here. And we take our wood block, make sure everything's nice and flat. Then we can start to peel back our tape and make sure everything was straight. We're going to start at the top piece. So you can see how easy this is, and it'll make it come out nice and flat for you. So we just have to let this sit and dry overnight. And when we come back in the morning, it'll be one completely perfectly flat piece of tile that you can now lift up the entire piece to mount it onto the wall. Alright, so now that you've peeled off the tape, you want to make any last minute adjustments. See, like this one here, see that grout line right there needs to be made a little wider, so I'll move the tile just slightly. But you can see first you got all of this mortar and the grout line. You want to move everything out of the grout lines. If there's any mortar at all, you want to make sure and get it all out of there. A lot of times when you do this, you'll have mortar that comes oozing up through. So in this case, it looks like we didn't need to back bar to the back. I kind of took the chance because I did a 1/4 inch by 3/16 inch trowel on that thin set there. And it was enough that you can look down there and you can see the pattern of the cement there, the mortar. See it poking through down there. So it appears we have enough. And then you also want to come around and clear off all of these, because you don't want this sticking to your I have a piece of wood down here on top of the table. You need to go around the whole perimeter and remove all of this. Make sure that everything can lift up right now, that it's not sticking. You just go around the edge and do that. And that way when it dries overnight, you'll be able to peel the whole thing up. You don't want it cementing down onto the wood. So you have to be careful about that. Now you can see I've dragged the sheet across the wood to the other side here. So dragging it helps to loosen it off the table there and make sure that it's not sticking anywhere to anything. And then another thing you want to do as a last check here, sanity check, is you always want to look for lippage. So right here I see a little bit of lippage on this tile here. So I'll show you right here if we get it real close. You'll see we'll have to move this corner down, push it down a little bit more into the mortar, so to make sure that he stays nice and flat with the rest of these. Because remember, this is a sheet of separate tiles that are all together on this mesh. And you want to make sure when this whole thing dries that it's a completely flat, straight plane. It should look like it's a single piece of tile, almost. Now this one here's got a little lippage right there too. And we're just going to push him down in. And you see how he went down? And I'm going to clean out this channel here a little bit more. And this guy, probably have to push him in a little bit there. And sometimes you just have to play with them a little bit, massage them a bit. But once they're set, yeah, you're fine. You know it'll be good and stiff. And you can also try putting a level across it too to make sure that it's nice and flat. So here I've got my machine edged piece of wood here, and you can see there's no gaps in there. All of the top surfaces of these tiles are perfectly in plane here. So it looks like we've done a good job here. Now I want to check over here. Here I can see, is that a teeny bit or not? If there is a little bit, what you can do is stick a little shim right under there. See how that needs to come up just a little bit right there? You can stick a little shim right under that to hold that in place and let it dry overnight. And I would imagine that this one over here might need the same thing. Let me see. If you come in a little, yeah, he needs to lift up probably just a teeny bit, nothing much. But just let it dry, make it nice and flat and in plane, and then let it dry. And here you can see, here's our tiles, finally planted on the wall here, nice and flat, plumb, true, and they just look beautiful. So I hope this helps you out. And of course, as usual, like our videos and subscribe to our channel, because we are always adding useful videos to help you get out of some really tight situations when you're doing remodeling.